I'm Vegas Runner, back breaking down MMA. We're here to talk about UFC 131. Great card in Canada. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to do something a little bit different. For this video, I'm going to break down most of the card, more or less give an overview. And what I did was isolate 4 plays that I really think offer value, but are heavy chalk. And what you can do with these is simple. Personally, I have no problem laying chalk. If I think I'm getting the best of it, meaning I have to lay minus 400 and I know the true odds should be closer to 600, to me that's value. That's a bet I'm going to make, and I know long term doing that I'm going to turn a profit. But I know a lot of guys don't like laying that chalk, so there's another way you could approach it, and that is by tying them up in parlays. And that's what a lot of bettors do with these heavy favorites in MMA. So I'm going to pass along the 4 bets that I isolated that I really think should get the money without any problem at all. This is a pretty chalky card. I mean, there's a lot of heavy favorites. With that said, some of these heavy favorites just don't warrant a wager, meaning a guy that may be 335 should only be about 275. And to me, that's not value. But when a guy's minus 275 and the true odds should be closer to 400, that's value, and I have no problem stepping up. Along with this, I'm going to do one other video, and that's going to be my very best bet for the card, and it comes in the main event between Junior Dos Santos and Shane Carwin. That will be my best bet for UFC 131, but let's get to the rest. And we have a couple undercard fights, a couple main card fights, and like I said, there's 4 bets in all. We're 12-3 in our last 15 boxing and MMA bets, including 7-3 in the UFC. So we have a nice win rate coming in the UFC 131. Let's get right to these. It's going to be quick, straight to the point. Like I said, they're chalk, but these still offer value, and they definitely should get the money. I'm backing them. And if you tie them up in a parlay, you should get 1.6 times your money, meaning a $100 parlay should pay you out $160 if you're able to get the most competitive price out there. Don't forget, some of the more square out shops, books, have odds where they don't offer as much value, meaning at a sharper book, you could get a favorite at minus 380, where a square book may have that same favorite up to around 500, because the take back on the vig is different on those square books than the sharper books. So you want to make sure you shop them around, especially when you're betting favorites. But then again, when you're betting underdogs too, because of the take back. So let's get right to it. 4 bets. We'll start off in the undercard. We'll start off with the Polish experiment, Krzysztof Soszynski. This is an easy fight for him. Bottom line, he's around minus 500, and I think he's worth every penny. He should not be in any danger in this fight. This is one where he will be able to finish his opponent. Asensio is more or less being fed to Krzysztof in this one. This is one of those that you can expect possible submission of the nights. We know he loves his Kimura, and I think Asensio should be a willing participant. Staying in the undercard, another fighter who is more or less being fed a win and is currently undefeated is Chris Weidman. Weidman's going off at around minus 340 offshore. Just saw that number at the Greek. And I really think this too is an underlay. Some may pause and say, experience-wise, Bongfeld has more fights, but level of competition is what matters most. And I really think he'll be out of his league here. Looking at Weidman, he's got that ground game. We know he's an East Coast guy, trained with Sarah, but he's also got excellent stand-up. He's a well-rounded fighter, and I think he will go on to win this fight easily and remain undefeated. Moving on to the main card, another gimme, and you got to ask yourself, why did the UFC make this fight? And it's extremely simple question to answer, and it's to make Cerrone look great. And they're feeding him an opponent in Rocha who will, again, make it an easy night for Cerrone. And I really think this will catapult him up into that title talk. Again, he has a huge fan base, exciting fighter, and because of this, UFC has put him on the main card, even though he's a huge favorite. Going off at around minus 380 tells you all you need to know. Cerrone in an easy one. Finally, Kenny Florian trying to make history. I remember back when he was in the Tough show going against Diego Sanchez. That was at around 185. I think he went off at 181 pounds in that fight, but he was fighting at the 185 limit. And here he is trying to make 145, and this is actually the first time. He hasn't even had a trial period, but word is he's had no problem making the weight cut. All this talk about if it goes into the later rounds, he should be sluggish. That's just not the case. Every source, proven source of information that I've spoken to has said that Florian has been able to make this weight cut just fine, and we should see a Ken Flo who's had his trouble fighting the best, but this is not going to be one of those instances where he is outclassed. So regardless of where this goes, whether it goes to the mat and Ken Flo astonishes us with his jiu-jitsu, or whether it stays standing, I think Ken Flo will be able to get the win. While it's standing, Nunes will make it an exciting fight. His Muay Thai, his kickboxing is extraordinary, and he's produced a lot of exciting fights at WEC. Confident kid, young kid, definitely has a future in the UFC. But this just is a bad matchup for him against Florian. So you got to give the nod to Ken Flo here as a minus 275 favorite. So let's go back and review. Out of all the fights on the prelims, the main card, the Spike TV card, I was able to isolate 4 favorites that I really think are still underlays. I still think it offer value, and I do think can be tied up in a parlay because they should sweep the board, meaning we should be able to go 4-0 with all these 4 bets for those that aren't comfortable in laying the heavy chalk like myself. So those 4 bets are Krzysztof Sosinski, number 1. Number 2, Chris Weidman. Number 3, Donald Cerrone. And last but not least, Kenny Florian. So that's 4 fights that I think are as easy as they come and should be able to sweep the board for us. Now, don't forget, I will be giving away my best bet, my premium play for UFC 131 in the next video, and it will be on the main event between Junior Dos Santos and Shane Carwin. Thanks for tuning in once again. Thanks for all the great replies via Twitter, via Facebook, via YouTube. And always look forward to breaking down MMA with you guys. Let's cash some tickets come Saturday night.